I never imagined I'd end up working at a fried chicken joint in the middle of nowhere, let alone near the fog-drenched forests of Bolu. Back home in Istanbul, I was just another university student, juggling lectures and late-night study sessions. But tuition doesn't pay itself, and when an opportunity came to work at Kraltavuk, this lonely outpost on a crumbling road surrounded by endless pine trees, I took it. The place smelled like grease, old wood smoke, and something I couldn't quite place, like cold earth and secrets. Emre, my manager, was a chain-smoking ex-con who had no time for ghost stories or city boy paranoia. He ran this joint like it was a fortress against the silence outside. The flickering neon sign buzzed over the cracked parking lot where the mud stuck to your boots and the cold late autumn air pressed heavy against my skin. The first time I saw him was a night when the rain was coming down hard enough to drown the roads. I was behind the counter wiping down greasy surfaces when the door slammed open. A man stepped inside wearing a salt-stained sailor's coat, not the flashy kind you see in movies, but something worn and real, soaked with the salt air and long nights at sea. His boots tracked black mud across the floor, and his face was gaunt, eyes glassy like a fish caught too long on a dock. He asked one question in a low voice. "What time do you close?" I told him, but he didn't order anything. Without another word, he slipped back out into the rain, disappearing into the fog like he'd never been there. About an hour later, I was taking out the trash when I heard wet footsteps crunching in the dark behind me. I froze, heart pounding. The man was there, standing at the edge of the parking lot, holding something by the scruff, a dead fox. Its fur was matted with blood, and the sight made my stomach turn. "You think you can hide?" he said, voice rough and chilling. Before I could answer, he was gone. Just like that, vanished into the thick fog wrapping the woods. The silence returned, heavier somehow. I told Emre, but he just laughed, flicking ash from his cigarette. "Ghost stories, Sam. The woods play tricks on city boys." But I wasn't so sure. That night I couldn't shake the feeling of eyes watching from the trees. The next day the police came, but their verdict was quick and dismissive. "Probably just a poacher," they said, eyeing me like I was wasting their time. The nearest station was an hour away, and they rolled their eyes whenever I mentioned the man or the fox. Still, something about that night haunted me, like the forest itself was alive, waiting. A week later, the tension got worse. I was finishing my shift when I found it. Stuck into the dumpster out back was a knife, its blade gleaming in the pale light. A note was pinned beneath it, written in sharp, hurried letters. "You can't escape me." The words made my blood run cold. I showed it to the police. This time they took the knife seriously. They launched a search deep into the woods and found an abandoned white van. It was packed with stolen license plates, animal pelts, and an eerie collection of sailor uniforms, like the coat the man wore. No sign of the man, no bodies, nothing but a chilling silence inside the van's rusty frame. The officers found the scene suspicious but couldn't explain what the van was doing in these remote woods, so they filed it away, as if the mystery was solved by mere abandonment. But I knew better. On my last night before heading back to Istanbul, I felt the eyes, again watching from the shadows. When I unlocked my car after my shift, my breath caught in my throat. Tied to the antenna with fishing wire was a fox's tail. The fur was coarse, still stained faintly with dark patches. I didn't sleep that night. I left the next morning without a word, not looking back at the cracked road leading to Kraltavuk or the endless pines hiding whatever hunted me. Sometimes when I pass a fish market or catch the salty breeze near the Bosphorus, I smell it. The scent of wet fur and salt. A ghost carried on the wind. It's like a warning, a reminder. I tried to bury the memory, but the shadow of that man, the forest, the fox, stayed with me. I kept thinking about the van and what else might have been hidden inside. Maybe missing people. Maybe more than just animal pelts and stolen license plates. There was something darker, something desperate behind those glassy eyes. Emre never believed me, and the police dismissed me as just a scared city kid. But sometimes when the wind picks up and the night grows thick, I swear I can hear footsteps, crunching in the mud behind me. Some hunters don't stop chasing no matter how far you run, and some shadows never leave. It's just past midnight, and I'm wiping down the same greasy counter for the third time in the past hour. The flickering neon sign outside KFC casts this eerie blue glow across the cracked vinyl booths, where a couple of drunks mumble at each other or stare blankly at their chicken buckets like they're solving the world's problems. It's late winter here in Milwaukee, and the roads outside are slick with black ice, turning the parking lot into a slippery mess of slush piles and frozen puddles. I'm 20, going to community college, working these graveyard shifts because tuition doesn't pay itself. And if I miss 2 more shifts, I'm out of here. Manager's words, not mine. My manager is useless, probably asleep in his office or drowning his sorrows in a coffee cup. Me? I'm stuck taking orders from people who either can't stop talking or won't talk at all, their dead eyes barely acknowledging me. That's when he walks in. Dave. I remember him from last week, mid-40s, graying buzz cut, and the kind of guy who smells like cheap beer and Marlboros. He wears a Packers hoodie, dirty like he's been wearing it since the last game day. He leans over the counter like he knows me, flashing a smile with just his teeth. "Hey, gorgeous," he says, slapping his palms on the counter so hard I flinch. "How much does a polar bear weigh?" I don't look up. "Sir, your order?" He grins wider, like I'm part of some joke only he gets. But I'm tired. Too tired to entertain whatever weird game he's playing tonight. He laughs like I gave the perfect answer, even though I didn't answer at all. I finally glance up and he's watching me like I'm the first decent thing he's seen in weeks. "Enough to break the ice," he says, nodding at my rag in his direction. "So what's your name, beautiful?" I hesitate, just for a second. I'm used to being invisible here, just another face behind the counter, but something about him makes me want to talk. Maybe it's the loneliness, his, mine, or both. "Mia," I say quietly. "Dave." He extends a hand, but I just wipe it on my apron instead. He orders a bucket of chicken, some fries, and 2 sodas. I ring it up and try not to roll my eyes when he adds, "Keep the change," tossing a crumpled 5 on the counter. I'm about to retreat when he says, "Look, I know you don't want to talk, but I'm not here to cause trouble." I squint, at him, skeptical. Trouble's all I ever get here. But his voice is different, honest maybe. "Why are you here so late anyway?" "Running from something," he says, almost to himself. I don't push. But maybe for the first time in a long time, I want to hear more. He comes in every few nights after that. Sometimes he talks, sometimes he just stares out the window, lost in thought. One night the place is quiet except for the hum of the fryer, and Dave finally opens up. "Lost my job, lost my girl," he says, rubbing his stubbly chin. Now I'm just trying to keep my head above water. I tell him about school, how I'm juggling 2 jobs and scraping by. He listens like I'm not just some bored fast food worker. "I used to think life had a plan," he says, staring at his half-empty soda. But now I'm not so sure. There's a rawness in his voice I can't ignore. It hits close to home. Life's messy. Sometimes you're just trying not to drown. We joke a little, and I find myself laughing, a sound I haven't made outside my apartment. For a moment, the neon light doesn't feel so cold. One night, after a brutal snowstorm, I'm locking up when Dave pulls into the lot, sliding his car a little too close to the curb. "Need a ride?" he asks. Normally I'd say no, but the cold's biting and the streets are slick with black ice. I climb in. We drive through empty streets, headlights cutting through the fog. Dave tells me about the Packers, his old buddies, the bar he used to own before it all fell apart. The pain's there beneath the stories. At one point, his hands tremble on the wheel and I reach out, placing mine over his. "Hey," I say softly. "You're not alone." He nods, the weight of years showing in his eyes. That night I realize maybe we're both running from ghosts, but for a few hours we found something solid, a fragile connection in the cold. Weeks pass and Dave becomes a regular part of my nights. The joke about the polar bear becomes our thing. I tell him about finals. He tells me about his job hunt. One night, he hands me a crumpled note with a number on it. "Call me if you ever need to talk," he says. I do. Maybe it's not about fixing everything. Maybe it's just about finding enough warmth to break the ice. And sometimes, that's enough to keep going. Working at KFC in Andheri East wasn't what I dreamed of, but dreams don't pay hospital bills. I'm Rahul, 24, a college dropout stuck flipping chicken to support my mom, who's been sick for years. Dad left long ago, leaving us with debts and silence. The restaurant was always packed, the air thick with oil and spices, mixing with the incessant honking outside. The monsoon made the kitchen feel like a sauna, sweat pouring down my face while fryers hissed and popped. Lokesh, our manager, was tough, business over people. He cared about numbers, not if we were dying inside. I had been here over a year when Nikhil showed up, applying for a job. He was quiet but eager, a sharp contrast to the usual burnout crowd. I vouched for him. We needed all the help we could get. At first, Nikhil was a dream employee, early every day, staying late without complaint, meticulous about cleaning. Lokesh even praised him. But slowly something shifted. He started hoarding fried chicken skin, stuffing it in his locker, eating it raw. I asked once. He said it was research. I laughed it off, but his eyes looked distant, like he was somewhere else. Then he'd linger after closing, muttering near the freezer. One night, I caught him licking the seasoning off the counter, fingers covered in grease. I should have said something, but he smiled wide. Too wide. It made me uneasy. The man who once seemed perfect started to unravel. Nikhil's uniform became stained, his hair messy. He barely spoke except in half-mumbled phrases. Sometimes, I'd catch him staring, at customers a little too long, his smile stretching unnaturally across his face. It wasn't right. I tried to tell myself it was stress, or maybe he had a rough past, but I didn't know what I was really seeing. One evening, Lokesh called Nikhil into the office for a talk. I thought nothing of it. Maybe disciplinary, maybe praise. But when the clock passed and Lokesh didn't come out, something twisted in my gut. I pushed open the door and what I saw still haunts me. The office was soaked in blood. Lokesh sat slumped in his chair, his skin peeled away in ragged strips like someone had skinned him alive. His face was frozen in a mix of terror and disbelief. The walls were smeared with red streaks mixed with grease like a grotesque bloody painting. And there in the corner was Nikhil. He was crouched, chewing something slowly, his teeth stained red. He looked up at me with those wild, glazed eyes. "The secret isn't in the spices," he whispered. "It's in the skin." The colonel knew. My family. We've always known. I felt bile rise in my throat. Nikhil's words hit me like a punch. His family? What did he mean? Later, when the police got involved, I learned the truth. Nikhil was from a remote village in Uttar Pradesh, a place where dark traditions still lived in the shadows. His family was tied to rumors of ritualistic cannibalism, believing that consuming flesh, especially skin, gave strength and power. I couldn't believe it. This was no urban legend. This was real. And Nikhil had come here thinking KFC was hiding some secret recipe beyond the spices, something far more sinister. I realized I'd been blind, desperate to trust someone, to find a friend in this grueling job. But instead, I'd invited. A monster in Nikhil's obsession had driven him to madness, and I was right there beside him, too caught up in my own struggles to see the danger. The police questioned me for hours. I told them everything I knew, but it felt like nothing could undo what happened. I knew I couldn't stay there. Every shift felt like a death sentence, haunted by what I'd seen. But Nikhil wasn't done with me yet. I used his need for approval against him, telling him the colonel's work wasn't finished, playing along with his delusions. It was a gamble. When he turned away, I bolted, running through the rain-soaked streets, calling the cops. Nikhil was caught and institutionalized, but the scars remained. I quit the job the next day. Now every time I smell fried chicken, my stomach twists. The scent brings back the horror of that bloodied office, the madness in Nikhil's eyes, the peeling skin and the words he whispered like a twisted secret. I can't eat KFC anymore. I stick to other places, but even the thought is enough to make me nauseous. Some nights when the rain pounds outside and the city noise fades, I hear it. Nikhil's voice in my head. You should have tasted it, Rahul. It was perfect. The horror isn't just in what he did. It's in the way desperation can make you blind. How we sometimes ignore the warning signs because we want to believe in something better. My life hasn't been easy, but I learned that evil doesn't always wear a mask. Sometimes it's just a hungry man chasing a dark family secret in a KFC kitchen. The city moves on, the traffic honks, and the fryers hiss. But I'll never forget the night the secret recipe was something much worse than herbs and spices. I never thought a fast food joint could feel like home, but KFC on Highway 40 outside Riyadh was exactly that for me and Layla. For the last 3 years, it had been our secret refuge during those brutal midterm nights at King Saud University. The flickering neon sign, the endless stretch of desert behind it, and the hum of cars passing through the drive-thru, all strangely comforting. It was where I, Khalid, a 22-year-old pre-med student scraping by on a scholarship, could grab a cheap meal and some silence while cramming for exams. Layla, studying architecture, was my anchor in this chaos. Though her conservative family thought she was tucked safely away in the women's dorm. Every night at 3 a.m. we'd meet here. The manager knew our order by heart, the mighty zinger, meal with extra toom sauce and a side of za'atar spiced fries. It was humble, but it was ours. I usually stayed in my old '98 Toyota to avoid gossip. After all, late-night meetings between a guy and a girl weren't exactly encouraged. Layla would slip inside alone, order our food, and retreat back to the car. That night was supposed to be just like any other, but something was off the moment she stepped in. The room was dead quiet. Customers sat motionless, staring blankly at their plates, untouched chicken sitting cold in front of them. The cashier smiled, but his eyes were glassy, unfocused. A strange chemical scent hung in the air, like a hospital but worse, sharper. When Layla bit into her extra spicy chicken, the bitter taste hit her like a punch. That first bite was the start of everything falling apart. I watched from the car, waiting for Layla, but she didn't come back right away. When she finally opened the door, her face was pale, her usual spark dimmed. The chicken tasted wrong, she said, bitter and burning in a way she couldn't describe. I brushed it off as a bad batch, but deep down, I knew something was very wrong. The next few hours, things got worse fast. I started feeling dizzy, my vision clouding over. Layla's skin, normally smooth and warm, began cracking, dry and flaky, like the desert dirt outside. We both saw strange shapes, geometric patterns swirling in and out of focus. I couldn't explain it, but I was terrified. We ended up in the emergency room at King Fahad Hospital. The doctor, calm but grave, said the word that chilled me. Phenethylline, reaction. The KFC drug, he called it, a stimulant poisoning. It wasn't the first time. He showed us a logbook, 17 cases just this month, all tied back to that same KFC. I kept thinking, how could a place we trusted, where we sought comfort, become the source of something so sinister? How does fast food turn into a slow poison? We couldn't just walk away, not yet. The next night, drawn by a mix of fear and morbid curiosity, we returned to the KFC. The scene was worse than I imagined. Customers were no longer sitting still. They were gnawing raw chicken from dumpsters, eyes vacant, their faces slack and lifeless. Inside, employees moved robotically, repeating the phrase over and over. The customer is always right. It wasn't a mantra anymore, it was a trance. We found the Syrian franchise owner barricaded inside his office, screaming about customer loyalty experiments, rambling about drug trials disguised as marketing strategies. He ranted about controlling the population through addiction and desperation, about how the desert's isolation made it the perfect testing ground. When the authorities arrived, they shut the place down by sunrise. Chains sealed the doors, but the echoes of what had happened lingered like a ghost. Months have passed since that nightmare, but the damage doesn't heal. My hands shake uncontrollably during exams, the simplest tasks a battle. Layla can't even look at fried food without her stomach turning. We're ghosts of who we were, haunted by a place we thought was safe. The building sits empty now, a rusting carcass in the desert. At night, when the wind blows just right, I swear I hear the drive-through speaker crackling with static like a whisper from the past. Sometimes I even glimpse movement behind the chained glass doors, but no one is ever there. I catch myself wondering if anyone else got caught in that trap, if those experiments spread beyond this forgotten branch. It's a reminder that corruption can lurk beneath the most familiar comforts, that addiction can be hidden in plain sight. Looking back, the whole thing was a toxic recipe. Too many ingredients brewed in secrecy. A cheap meal, a spark of desperation, a dose of phenethylline slipped into the batter. It wasn't just about fast food or a shady franchise owner. It was about trust, how we put faith in something routine, something every day, without questioning the shadows behind it. This wasn't just a horror story about poisoned chicken or hallucinations. It was a wake-up call about how addiction wears disguises, how corporations and power can exploit those who have nowhere else to turn. The neon sign still flickers in my mind, a beacon of what once was and what could have been worse. KFC Al Nakheel is gone now, but its secret recipe still haunts me, and maybe it will haunt you too. I never thought I'd end up here, behind this grimy counter at a KFC that smelled like it hadn't been cleaned since Nixon was president. But here I am, 28 years old, unemployed, and smelling like cheap whiskey and regret. 3 weeks ago, Leah dumped me, said it wasn't me, but really it was me. I got fired from my IT job for watching Twin Peaks reruns during a server migration, and to top it off, my cat started peeing on my side of the bed, the side Leah used to sleep on. So yeah, this place, the KFC off Interstate 10 in Blythe, felt like the only place left that made any sense. It's Sunday night, 11:37 p.m. The air, conditioners busted, and the smell of decades-old fry oil clings to every corner. The flickering hot and fresh sign outside now reads, "Ot and Re-H." I clocked in for my shift earlier, but the place has been dead all night. I should have been home, but the truth is I needed this. A greasy biscuit and the flicker of fluorescent lights to feel something, anything besides the Wellbutrin haze clouding my brain. Then the door chimes. I freeze. There she is, Leah, sitting alone in a booth by the bathroom, picking at a soggy green bean. Her phone is open to our old Spotify playlist, Ryan and Leah's Bad Decisions. Our eyes meet, and my chest tightens. The last thing I want is to see her here, but here she is. Same broken and beaten as me. Leah looks up from her plate, voice flat like the stale air around us. "You smell like regret and cheap whiskey." I shove my hands in my pockets, trying to hide how much her words sting. "Missed you too, Lee." There's silence, thick and awkward. The fryer beeps somewhere behind me, like a cruel reminder that life goes on even when you're stuck in moments you want to forget. We're here for the same reason, I realize. Self-loathing disguised as comfort food. We're both bleeding, but neither of us knows how to say I'm sorry without sounding like I'm lost. Trying to shake off the heaviness, I head to the counter to order. That's when I notice them, 3 men in khakis and polo shirts sitting together at a table. They're holding hands, murmuring something in Latin, or at least it sounds like Latin, over a 10-piece bucket. Their heads snap up as I pass by. I'm wearing my Love Wins shirt, faded but still unmistakably rainbow. The middle guy's eyes drop to my shirt. My palms sweat. Leah watches from her booth, her expression unreadable. I want to walk away, but something pins me there. I'm halfway to the register when the smallest of the trio grabs my wrist. His grip is surprisingly strong, fingers cold. His whisper cuts through the grease-slick air. "Don't go outside." I glance out the grease-streaked window. A figure in a ski mask is dragging something toward a pickup truck. A glint of metal catches the flickering parking lot light. A choked scream pierces the night. The masked man looks up and directly at me. My stomach drops. Before I can react, the three men spring into action. The first flips a table, blocking the entrance. The second shoves Leah and me toward the kitchen. The third presses a meat cleaver into my hand. "You ever field dress a deer?" he asks, voice calm but chilling. Leah grabs my arm, her nails digging in so deep I feel the blood pounding in my wrist. The first man loads a revolver from his waistband. "That's Travis," he says. "Our brother. Got into some bad bath salts. Thinks he's purging the wicked." I glance at Leah. She meets my eyes. "We should probably talk," I say, voice shaking. She watches Travis stab the kitchen door. "You always did have terrible timing," she murmurs. The cops find 2 bodies in the dumpster, drifters, they say, missing for weeks. The polo shirts vanish before the police arrive. "We have a men's retreat in Temecula," one officer tells me with a half smile that doesn't reach his eyes. Leah drives me home in silence. At my apartment, she finally breaks it. "Your cat's been sleeping on my pillow." I laugh bitterly. "We don't get back together?" "Not really. But every Sunday at midnight, we meet at that KFC. She steals my fries. I let her. It's our weird little ritual now, a way to keep the past from swallowing us whole." That night changed me. It wasn't ghosts or demons that haunted that KFC. It was the real monsters. People broken by the world, driven mad, or desperate enough to become violent in a place meant for greasy comfort. Leah and I, wrecks in ways that mirror each other, learned that salvation doesn't always look like you expect. Sometimes it wears a polo shirt and carries a revolver. Sometimes it's just a shared basket of fries. A quiet acknowledgement that no one's really okay, but maybe you can survive together. The desert stretches out around Blythe, empty and unforgiving. That flickering neon sign, the smell of old fry oil, the broken AC, they all remind me how close we are to the edge and how sometimes the past finds you in the places you go to hide. I'll never look at fast food the same way again. I never thought working at KFC along Marcos Highway would become a nightmare, but here I am. My name's Leon Cruz and I'm 19. Most nights I clock in at 6 p.m., work until midnight, then crash in my bed space nearby before my online classes at 7 a.m. It's a rough schedule, and the pay, P68 an hour, is barely enough to send back to my Lola in the province who needs medicine. Every peso counts. This KFC isn't your typical fast food place. It's half broken, with flickering fluorescent, lights buzzing like angry mosquitoes, a leaky AC dripping water on table 7, and security cameras that have been dead since the pandemic started. The smell of stale cooking oil mixed with rain-damp asphalt sets the mood. It feels like the place is always one step away from falling apart. And then there's the Colonel. He's a middle-aged man who comes almost every night, always dressed in the cleanest white polo I've ever seen on someone who looks so worn down. He never orders anything but nurses one iced tea refill for hours, sitting alone at booth 3, staring. And when he looks at me, it's like he's trying to peel something off, literally peeling skin off his lips, slowly, like some sick ritual. I can't explain why, but I freeze every time his eyes lock on my name tag. It's the kind of stare that digs into your bones and makes your skin crawl. Nobody else seems to notice, but for me, it's like a warning. That night, I was finishing my closing shift, already exhausted, when I stepped out into the rain toward my bed space. The streets were quiet except for the hum of tricycles and the occasional jeepney rattle. Then I saw it. A white Toyota Vios parked just a few meters from the KFC. Common car, sure, but this one had a broken headlight, and it wasn't the first time I'd seen it there. As I walked, the car's engine idled, and I could swear it sped up whenever I moved faster, slowed down when I stopped. My heart pounded so loud I thought the driver inside might hear it. I tried to shake off the feeling, telling myself it was nothing. Later, as I tried to sleep in my flimsy plywood bed space, I heard the metal scraping noise. Soft, deliberate. Then the doorknob turned slowly. I froze, eyes wide, unable to move. Luckily, the barangay tanod came just in time. When they arrived, they found something strange outside. Chicken bones arranged in a neat, creepy line leading away from my door. That's when I knew the Colonel wasn't just some weirdo from KFC. He was following me. The next night at work, the colonel didn't miss his usual spot. But this time, something new. When I went to clean his table, I found a napkin folded neatly, with my bus route written in red ketchup. Every stop I take, every turn. I showed it to my manager, hoping for some kind of support or maybe to scare the guy away. Instead, he just laughed and said, "Baka crush galang." Maybe he thought I was overthinking it, or maybe he didn't want to get involved. Either way, it made me feel even more alone. When I finally left, the white Toyota Vios was waiting. I tried to ignore it, quickening my pace, but it was relentless. I sprinted toward the nearby 7-Eleven for safety, but I slipped on the greasy sidewalk and twisted my ankle hard. I couldn't work for a whole week after that, losing $3,000 in wages, money I desperately needed. I kept thinking, how does someone like me, just trying to survive, get caught in something so dangerous? After that injury, I begged my manager to switch me to day shifts. The tips were half, but at least I could avoid the night terror. Still, the paranoia wouldn't go away. I saw white cars everywhere, in dreams, in the shadows behind my eyelids. The money I sent home slowed to a trickle. Lola's medicine was 2 weeks late. She called, worried, and I felt like I was failing her. I bought pepper spray, but it leaked in my bag, ruining my only pair of headphones. I wasn't safe anywhere. Sometimes I catch myself glancing over my shoulder for no reason, heart racing. The city feels colder, darker, and every street seems to have eyes I can't see. The colonel stopped coming after I changed shifts, but the fear never left. Just last week, the new cashier told me the same man showed up, staring and peeling his lips again. And yesterday, that white Toyota Vios was parked right outside my bed space again, headlights flickering. It's not just the stalking. It's knowing my poverty makes me invisible, an easy target. The police shrug when there's no proof. In this city, minimum wage workers like me disappear quietly, swallowed by a system that doesn't care. I'm still here, but sometimes I wonder if I'll ever truly be safe. I never planned on working the graveyard shift at KFC in our 4178 on Route 9 in Milford, Delaware. But life has a way of steering you toward fluorescent lights buzzing over greasy floors and a broken ice machine that's been out of commission since 2014. Nursing school debt is crushing, mom's MS treatments aren't cheap, and my KFC TikTok account, named Spicy Cass, blew up overnight with secret menu hacks and 11 herbs and spices Sunday experiments. 83,000 followers and counting. Yeah, that's me, princess of the night crew, the one who refuses to clean grease traps, scores the best delivery orders, and makes viral videos while the world sleeps. It's late October, and my shift runs from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. The dining room smells like decades of fry grease. The broken drive-through timer stubbornly reads 00, and the security camera hasn't recorded a damn thing since Obama was president. Mostly truckers and insomniacs come through, but every night feels lonelier than the last. Then, out of nowhere, the weird DMs start rolling in. October 12th, 2:17 a.m. Remember when you sat alone at lunch sophomore year? I saved you a seat. Every day. You never came. I laugh it off. Weird internet creeps are nothing new. But then a photo of my 2016 Honda Civic parked outside the KFC at 1:53 a.m. A screenshot of my DoorDash orders, always extra gravy. A voice memo of me singing Lord in the walk-in freezer. The attention feels less like admiration and more like a slow crawl down a hallway with no lights. October 20th, 3:42 a.m. I'm restocking straws when I catch the smell, smoke. I drop the boxes and run toward the men's bathroom, heart pounding. Flames lick the bathroom walls, licking the cheap tiles like they want to eat the place alive. On the mirror, written in ketchup, 11 herbs and spites. A misspelled message, but chilling all the same. I'm alone that night. The security footage finally gets a flicker. A blurry figure in a KFC uniform moving through the dining room. But the camera's old and grainy. It might as well be a ghost. The fire marshal finds a Molotov cocktail made from a honey mustard bottle tossed in the bathroom. The place smells like burnt chicken and fear. My manager shakes his head but shrugs it off. Bad luck, Cass. I want to scream, but the night shift is invisible and I'm just Princess, the girl with the viral TikToks. But it's no accident. I know someone wants me to be afraid. October. Second, 12:06 a.m. My phone buzzes again. This one hits too close to home. Unknown user 042. Now you remember me. Attached is a photo. Me, sleeping, at my apartment. My spicy chicken Halloween costume slumped over a chair behind me. Panic twists in my chest. Then it clicks. Maddie Hooper. The quiet girl from chemistry class. Always shy, always watching. The girl I called Mad Mads, not knowing it sounded cruel. The one who brought me pencils when I forgot mine. She disappeared after her dad's DUI killed a family of 4. I never saw her again, but she never forgot me. She's been watching, waiting. Every DM, every photo, every voice memo is a breadcrumb trail from someone broken and desperate. Someone who fixated on the only person who almost saw her. Police come and go. They find no forced entry at my apartment. The manager fires me. Bad for business, he says, like the real threat is the bad press. I move, but the nightmare moves with me. October 31st, Halloween. A DoorDash delivery shows up. 11 biscuits arranged in a noose. My hands tremble as I hold the box. I check my locks 3 times before bed. I eat at Popeyes now, safer somehow. Every night I see Maddie's face in the eyes of every drive-through customer. The silence, the watching. I'm not Princess anymore, I'm just someone trying to survive. It's not monsters or ghosts lurking in the night. It's real people, broken, desperate, invisible until they aren't. The social media fame that once made me feel alive has made me a target. Visibility cuts both ways. Maddie isn't a villain to me, she's a tragedy. A person who was never seen when it mattered most and now haunts me in the flicker of fluorescent lights and the stale scent of fry grease. I still get messages. The last one reads, "I'll always save you a seat, Cass." I don't know what that means anymore. But I know I can't go back to pretending the night shift doesn't hold its own kind of terror. The kind that no one believes because it's too ordinary to be true. And maybe, just maybe, that's the scariest secret recipe of all.